You left me on the doorstep last week with 2 dots a hair apart, and a promise I've been turning over every night since. The room where the future flows, you called it, the whole of emotion shrunk to one point, drifting its single thread. And right at the end, you cracked the door and said, there are rooms where 2 threads, dropped a whisker apart, don't stay a whisker apart, they peel away, the river that tangles. And then you did the thing you always do, the quiet door look, the sweep off into the dark, and left me holding a phrase you first handed me on the very first night of all, a slightly different start. So, last night of the whole series, I came in ready, show me the tangle.
The last night, and we've come the whole way round to it. That phrase you've been carrying since night 1, a slightly different start. This is the night I swore, back then, would be about nothing else. And you're right to walk in with the 2 dots already in your hands, because everything we do tonight, you have the room to draw it in. You built that room last week. But before we go back into it, I want a toy in your hands. A real physical one, the best toy in all of physics for the thing we're about to do.
A toy. All right. I did the whole season. I've earned a toy. Hand it over. What is it?
Take an ordinary pendulum. A rod, a pivot at the top, a weight swinging at the bottom. You've known it cold since the 4th night. Nature's favourite motion, the tidiest swing there is, back and forth on its one clean beat. Now do one small wicked thing to it. At the bottom, where the weight hangs, don't hang a dead weight. Hang a second pendulum. Another rod, another little pivot, another weight free to swing off the end of the first one. That's the whole modification. A pendulum hung off the end of a pendulum. It has a name, the double pendulum.
That's it. 2 swings, one dangling off the other. That doesn't sound wicked. That sounds like a craft project. A mobile you'd hang over a crib.
Hold that about the harmless mobile. You'll want it back in an hour. Because here is what that innocent little thing actually does. Lift it up to one side, let it go, and it does not swing. It thrashes. The lower weight whips right over the top, the upper one snaps back to meet it. The whole contraption flails in a way your eye can't stay ahead of. No rhythm you can name, no beat you can tap your foot to. Just a wild, lurching, tumbling dance that never once repeats itself.
And my eye really can't get ahead of it, because with a normal swing I can call the next beat before it even lands. That's half of why a swing makes such a good clock.
Try to call the next beat of this one, and you'll be wrong more often than right. And that's the very thing your eye is flinching at. A plain swing hands you its next moment for free. You've seen the pattern, you know what's coming, you could set a watch by it. This thing refuses to hand it over. Every instant it does something you'd not quite have bet on, not because it's breaking any rule, but because reading its next move off its last one keeps failing you. And in a moment, I'll set 2 of them going at once, so you can see how deep that refusal runs.
Okay, now I want to see it. But hang on, it's still only 2 pendulums. 2 of the tamest things in the whole world, you told me. The swing was the tidy one, the reliable one, the metronome. How does tame plus tame come out the far side looking unhinged?
Hold that question too. It's the whole back half of tonight, and it has a real, sayable answer. But first, the thing I actually brought you here to watch. I'm going to build 2 of these double pendulums, standing side by side. Identical rods, identical weights, identical pivots, oiled the same. And I lift them both to the same height and release them at the same instant. Except one of them I lift a hair higher, a whisker. A difference so small you could not see it from across the room, could not measure it with any ruler in the house. Now, you tell me what happens.
Easy. Same toy, same laws, near enough the same start. So near enough the same dance. They both thrash, fine, but they thrash together. 2 dancers who trained in the same room, one a half step off, maybe drifting apart slow over a long, long while. Exactly like your oscillator threads last week. A hair apart at the start and a hair apart the whole way round the loop. Faithful forever.
For the first few swings, that is what you see. They rise together. They whip over together. They match so well you'd swear you were watching one toy and its reflection in a mirror. And then, at some instant you could never have called in advance, they part. Not drift, part. One weight sails over the top, while its twin, the whisker-different one, falls back short.
Just a stumble, though? They recover, they find each other again?
No recovery. Within a few more swings, the two of them are doing wholly unrelated dances. One flailing off to the left, while the other loops away right, sharing nothing, keeping no memory at all of the fact that they began a whisker apart. Two toys, same law, same care. Two completely different futures.
No, hold on. That's you being sloppy. You said a hair higher, but your hand isn't a machine, is it? You let one of them go a fraction of a beat late, or there's a speck of grit in the one pivot and not the other, or one rod came off the lathe a hair heavier. That's not the physics coming apart, that's your thumbs. Do it again and do it clean.
Do it as clean as you can dream of. Machine the rods to a perfection no workshop anywhere could reach. Release them both off the same mechanical latch, to the same thousandth of a beat, in the same dead-still air. Every trick you have for shoving the two starts closer together. Use every one of them at once. And the two dances still come apart. Later, if you are very careful, but they come apart every single time. The parting was never your thumbs. Cleaning it up only ever buys you a few more matched swings before it happens anyway.
So it isn't that I was careless, it's that careful doesn't rescue me. Being more careful just delays the divorce.
That's the toy. The most honest toy in all of physics. Flick it twice the same, as near the same as any hand or latch or lathe can manage, and it laughs at you. Does a different dance every time, and dares you to call it cheating. And you can't, because nothing cheated. Same rods, same law, same air, both times. That laughter is the sound of a perfectly lawful thing that you nonetheless cannot call.
All right, so that's the thing I walked in ready to see, and it's worse than I pictured. Let me get underneath it. What is actually going on between those two toys, in the stretch where they go from twins to strangers? Because with your oscillator last week, I could hold the picture, two threads, side by side, a fixed gap, forever. Here, the gap is doing something. What?
Tell me first how you'd have drawn the oscillator's gap in the room. Two starts a hair apart. What did the two threads do to that little gap between them?
They ran parallel, side by side, round the loop, the gap holding steady. A hair at the start, a hair at the finish, forever. That's why it was so easy to forecast. The little error I started with never grew. It rode along, the same size, patient, harmless.
The polite gap, the one that stays put. And here the gap won't stay put. Here it grows. But hold this carefully. It doesn't grow steadily. It doesn't creep up a fixed amount each second, the way water rises in a tub. It doubles. Whatever the gap is now, wait a certain fixed stretch of time, and it's twice that. Wait the same stretch again, and it's twice again. A hair becomes two hairs. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. 8 becomes 16. And the doublings do not slow down.
And doubling is the sneaky one, the growth that looks harmless for ages and then eats the whole room in a blink. It feeds on itself.
It feeds on its own size, each stretch handing the next one double what it had. It's the fastest kind of growth there is. And notice, there's a clock buried in it, a fixed stretch of time it takes to double once. That stretch has a plain name, the doubling time.
A doubling time. A clock inside the clock. Every so many ticks, the distance between my two toys doubles, no matter how small it was to begin with. And I can already feel where that goes, and it's not anywhere good.
Draw the two of them in last week's room, and the difference is a thing you can see with your eyes. The oscillator's threads were parallel rails, the same gap the whole way round the loop, never closing, never spreading. These two threads start as a single line, near enough to be one, and then they bow apart. Gently at first, then a wider and wider mouth, then flung to opposite corners of the room.
So, in the room, the tame case is two rails that hold their spacing forever, and the wild case is two threads that start out kissing and end up in different corners. Same river you drew for me last week, same iron rule that the threads never cross. And they still don't cross, do they? They only sprint away from each other while obeying every bit of it.
It's merciless. Follow it. Start the two toys a hair apart. After one doubling time, 2 hairs. Nothing. You'd never notice. After 10 doubling times, that hair has doubled 10 times over, and it's the width of your hand.
And after 20?
After 20, it's the length of a football field, and the two toys share nothing at all. The whole journey from whisker to chasm is only doublings, stacking up, and they stack up terrifyingly fast.
Okay, but let me push back because I think I can beat this. If doublings are the problem, I start closer. Start the two of them 100 times closer together, and I've pushed the whole disaster way off into the distance, bought myself loads of time, right?
You've bought some. And here's the cruelty of it, the part that makes chaos chaos rather than merely annoying. Start 100 times closer, and you do not push the parting 100 times further off. Each 100-fold better you measure buys you the same fixed little slice of warning and no more. Squeeze the start 100 times finer again, and you get that same small slice again. Never a bigger one.
So 100 times the care buys me the same little slice, not 100 times the future. And to see twice as far ahead.
You don't need twice the care. You need to keep halving your starting error over and over, forever. And the future keeps outrunning you anyway.
Oh, that's foul. That's genuinely foul. Every factor of precision I sweat and bleed for buys me the same measly little slice more, and the slices don't get bigger. Chasing the future by getting more careful is like bailing a boat with a thimble, while the sea comes in over the side.
That's the picture. And now you can meet the famous version of all this, the one everyone's half heard. A tiny nudge, far too small to see, that grows through those doublings until it has rewritten the whole future.
This is the butterfly, isn't it? I can feel it coming.
This is the butterfly. Lorenz is the name on it. He was chasing weather, of all things, when the doublings ambushed him, and the image that stuck forever after is a single beat of a butterfly's wing and a storm, a world away, that would not have happened without it. That's not poetry. That's the doubling time, told as a story.
Right, let me say the whole of it back before we go on, because it rearranged something just now and I want to check I've got it whole. 2 starts too close to tell apart, a gap that doesn't sit still like the oscillators. It doubles and doubles again on some fixed inner clock. So a whisker now is a chasm soon, guaranteed. And I can't win by being careful, because careful only pays in those same small slices, while the doublings gallop. A tiny cause, an enormous, unrecognizable effect. The butterfly and the double pendulum, and they're the same animal.
That's it. And now you're about to say a sentence that feels like iron, like it couldn't possibly be wrong. And it's wrong. Go on. Tell me what all this doubling must mean about whether the future is fixed.
Here's where I plant my flag, and I'll plant it hard because this one I'm sure of. Determined must mean predictable. Those are the same word wearing 2 coats. Look, you spent the whole first night, the whole season, convincing me the law fixes the next instant, and the next, all the way down, no wiggle room anywhere. Fine, I believe it. But if every single step is fixed, then the future is fixed. It's already written. And something already written is something you can read. Fixed is knowable. You don't get to fix the whole future and then tell me it's hidden. Pick one.
Plant it hard. I've been waiting the whole series to watch that particular flag come down. Let's take your sentence apart with the toy still thrashing in front of us. First half. Is the double pendulum's future fixed? Is there anything random in it, anywhere? Trace one of them, weight by weight. At every instant, the rods have a position and a speed, and Newton's law, the very law from night one, takes that and hands back precisely what happens the next instant. No dice rolled, no coin flipped, no little imp of chance sneaking in to choose. Feed the law the state now. It grinds out the state next, one and only one. So, is the future fixed?
It's fixed. Every step of it. There's no randomness in there at all. I watched you build it out of the same clockwork as everything else this season. It's as determined as a falling stone. One future and only one.
Fully determined, the demon's own clockwork, ticking flawless as advertised on night one. Now the second half of your iron sentence, that fixed therefore means readable. To read it, to compute where that weight sits a long time from now, what must you hand the law to start it grinding?
The state right now. Where the rods are, how they're moving. You always need the state. The engine can't turn without it.
And how finely must you know it? Not roughly, not to a whisker. Remember the doubling. Any error in your start, any smudge at all, however small, doubles, and inside a fairly short while, it has grown to swallow the whole answer. So to read the future far ahead, you would need the starting state pinned down, not to a whisker, not to a hair, but perfectly. Infinitely fine. Every digit, and there is no last digit.
And nothing in the world can hold a number that finely.
Nothing. No hand, no ruler, no instrument that exists or could ever be built, not even in a dream, holds a number to infinite fineness. That is the one thing the world will never hand you.
Hang on though, isn't that a problem with our instruments? Build a finer ruler, a better clock, measure 10 times as sharply, and surely you close the gap.
Measure 1,000 times as sharply, 1,000,000 times, and you've pushed the smudge down a few more digits. And the doublings eat those digits and come straight back for more. It was never that our rulers are poor. It's that the word perfectly has no flaw to stand on. There's always a finer digit past the last one you pinned, and in a thrashing system, the far future leans its whole weight on the digits you didn't get. A finer ruler buys you a few more little slices of foresight. It never buys the last digit because there is no last digit to buy.
Oh, that's the crack, isn't it? That's where the whole thing splits open. The future is fixed, completely fixed, and I still can't read it. Not because anything's random, but because reading it needs a perfection of the start that nobody can ever have. And whatever imperfection I've actually got doubles until it eats the entire forecast. Determined and unpredictable in the same breath. And they're not fighting each other at all.
There it is. Now say it back to yourself, slowly.
Let me say it back because I want to hear my flag hit the floor. Determined and unpredictable, and those were never the same word. I had them welded together and they were never even the same shape. Determined is about the law and a perfect start. Hand the clock a flawless instant and it unrolls one flawless future, no question. Predictable is about me, a finite creature, holding a smudged, fuzzy start, the only kind of start there is, trying to read that future off and losing it to the doublings. The clock can be perfect while my grip on it is fuzzy enough to ruin everything. Both true, no contradiction. I just had two different things filed under one word.
That's the wedge, and you drove it in yourself. Determinism and predictability. Two ideas that stroll along holding hands through every tame system in the world, so you never once notice they're two. And then chaos comes and pries their fingers apart in front of you, and you finally see they were always separate. The law keeps every promise. Your ability to cash the promise out past the doubling time is simply gone. Not weakened, gone, in principle.
Wait, last week you showed me the dot has a smallest size, a fuzz built into the very bottom of the world. Is that what this is? Is chaos the quantum blur sneaking back in through a side door?
No, and it's worth being sharp about it, because people blend the two and they shouldn't. Last week's fuzz was the world refusing to let a state be a perfect point at all. Tonight's trouble is a different creature. Hand the double pendulum a perfect point of a start. Pretend the quantum flaw clean away, and it is still unreadable, because your knowledge of that point is never infinitely fine, and the doublings feast on whatever gap is left. This is old, classical, Newton's law chaos. No quantum in it, no dice in it. Two separate humblings coming at you from two different directions.
And this is the thing you tried to warn me about on the very first night. You made me hold the phrase, a slightly different start, and you said determined doesn't mean predictable. And I nodded along like I understood, and I absolutely did not. I thought you were fussing over rounding errors, being tidy.
I was pointing straight at this from the first night. The clock is flawless, I said, and your grip on the starting instant never quite is. It sounded like a footnote back then, a little disclaimer. It was the whole last night, folded up small and slipped into your pocket on the first.
And now I've opened it. All right, but now I've got a much bigger fear, and I need you to deal with it because it's threatening to swallow the whole season. If two tame pendulums bolted together do this, if tidy plus tidy comes out unreadable, then was the rest of the course a lie? Every clean orbit, every neat swing, every conserved thing that held still and let me read it off, was all of that just the doublings running slow enough that I didn't catch them in the act? Is everything secretly this, and I only ever saw the calm before the thrash?
No. And here I have to be careful and precise, because it would be easy and wrong to walk out believing chaos is everywhere and nothing is ever knowable. It isn't everywhere. Some things truly are tame, all the way to the end of time, and the ones you met this season were tame for a reason. A single swing, a weight on a spring, one lone planet going round its sun. Start those a whisker off, and they stay a whisker off. The gap holds, or grows so gently it never matters. Readable forever. That was not luck.
So what's the line? What does a system need before it's allowed to laugh at me the way the double pendulum does?
Two things, and I can say both plainly so it doesn't sound like magic. The first is what we might call politeness, and its opposite. The tame systems are the polite ones. Push twice as hard, you get twice the response. Nudge the start a bit, the whole future shifts by a matching bit, no more. The parts don't gang up on each other. Everything scales, everything's proportional. The mathematicians call that linear, and it's why the oscillator's two threads ran parallel. In a polite, linear world, a small error stays a small error. It has no way to feed on itself.
And chaos needs the rude version, the impolite one, where the parts do gang up.
The parts ganging up, pushing back on each other in a tangled, out-of-proportion way, where a little change here can provoke a wildly bigger change there. The unlovely word is non-linearity, but you already have the picture in the toy. The lower pendulum yanks on the upper flings the lower. Each one is the other's weather, and the weather keeps changing because of what the other just did. That feedback, each part rewriting the conditions the other is living in, is the engine that turns a whisker into a chasm. And it needs a bit of room, enough freedom to move, a couple of parts at least to do the ganging.
So one swing can't do it. Nothing to gang up with. It just swings, polite, proportional, alone. But two swings, wired so each keeps shoving the other, has the feedback, and off it goes.
One swing? No. Two, hung so they wrestle each other. Yes. That's what it takes. Enough parts, wrestling in that out-of-proportion way, with room to move.
So would a triple pendulum be worse still? A third arm hung off the second, more parts to gang up, more room to thrash.
Generally, yes. Hang a third arm on and you've handed the wrestling even more freedom, and the thrash tends to come on harder and sooner. But here's the sobering part. You don't need 3, and you don't need 300. 2 arms already carry you over the line. The ingredients for chaos are almost embarrassingly cheap. A pinch of that out of proportion pushing back, a little elbow room, a mere 2 moving parts that lean on each other. But they're what it takes, not a switch that forces it. Plenty of systems have all 3 and still stay tame. It isn't some rare, elaborate condition the world has to strain to reach. It's lying around everywhere, and the real wonder is that anything at all stays tame.
And that reframes the entire course, honestly. It wasn't luck that 11 nights stayed readable. We spent them in the polite corner, on purpose. Linearity, this word I didn't even have until a minute ago, was the quiet thing holding the whole clockwork readable the whole season, doing the work the whole time, and I never saw it because it works by nothing happening. By the small staying small.
By the small staying small. The polite, linear corner is the corner you can actually learn from. So that's where we lived. And the moment you leave it, the moment the parts start wrestling out of proportion, the small stops staying small, and you're in the double pendulums world, where the toy laughs.
All right, take me out of the toy box then. Where does this actually rule? Not Craft Project Mobiles, the real machinery.
The first one you already met tonight without knowing it. The weather.
The weather. My whole life people have blamed the bad forecast on the forecasters. Not enough computers, not enough weather stations. They'll get it right eventually. You're about to tell me that's wrong.
I'm about to tell you it's wrong, in a deep and permanent way, and this matters, so hold it carefully. The atmosphere is a vast double pendulum. Not 2 weights, but countless parcels of air, everyone shoving its neighbours, warming and cooling and rising and elbowing each other, all wrestling out of proportion, with a whole sky's worth of room to move. It's non-linearity as far as the eye can see. So it has a doubling time, same as the toy. A tiny error in today's map of the air doubles, and inside a week or 2, it has grown to swallow the forecast whole.
And that butterfly, the wing you mentioned, is that meant literally? One actual insect, somewhere, flipping the whole forecast?
Take it as the picture, not a receipt. Nobody traces a particular storm back to a particular wing. That's not the claim. What's really underneath is smaller and stranger than blaming a bug. It's this. A difference in today's air too faint to measure, call it the size of a wing beat if the image helps, is by itself enough to hand you a different sky a couple of weeks out. The wing is a stand-in for unmeasurably small. The point was never which flap did it. The point is how absurdly little it takes to send the far forecast down another road entirely.
But surely a big enough computer, a perfect model, a weather station on every rooftop,
pushes the horizon out a little, and then stops, forever. Because it was never a shortage of computing. It's a shortage of precision, and precision has a flaw. To forecast a month ahead instead of a week, you'd need today's air mapped, not a touch more finely, but ludicrously more finely. Every swirl, every gust, down past what any instrument can ever read. And even then a month becomes 5 weeks, not 5 years. Better machines buy you slices. The doublings eat slices for breakfast.
So the week or 2 horizon isn't laziness, it's a wall.
It's a limit of principle. It is not waiting for a better computer. It's waiting for a perfect measurement of the whole sky, which is to say, it will wait forever.
That's a completely different feeling from the forecasters are lazy. The sky itself has an edge past which it cannot be seen, and no cleverness moves the edge more than a nudge. Okay, what else? You said the toy box was small.
Here's one that should unsettle you more, because it's about the cleanest, most trustworthy law in the whole course. Gravity. the law that drew you that perfect orbit on the sixth night. Two bodies, a sun and a planet, and gravity hands you that closed curve that keeps its word, a planet coming round right on schedule. Now add one more body. Three things, all pulling on each other by that same clean law. And ask for the tidy formula, the neat closed shape you got for two.
And let me guess, there isn't one. Even though it's the same gravity that behaved so beautifully with two.
There isn't one. No general tidy formula exists. Not because nobody's been clever enough, but because the thing itself won't hold still for one.
Somebody must have gone looking, though. A formula that clean. Somebody hunted for it.
Poincaré went hunting for exactly that, the orderly solution for three bodies. And what he found instead was the tangle, the doublings, the sensitive dependence, the whole of chaos hiding inside plain gravity the instant you allow three things to wrestle. That's the astonishing part. It isn't some exotic force that goes chaotic. It's the tamest, cleanest law you know, the moment you give it a third dancer.
Wait, three bodies pulling on each other. That's the sun, a planet, a moon. That's the solar system. Is our own solar system chaotic? Because that sounds like you just told me the planets are about to fly apart, and I refuse to spend the finale panicking about that.
Good. Refuse, because it isn't true. And this is precisely where people run off the rails. Yes, the solar system is chaotic, but chaos is not the same thing as falling apart, and the doubling time is everything. The toy's doubling time is about a second, so you lose it almost at once. For the planets, the doubling time is fantastically long. You lose the ability to say exactly where a planet sits along its orbit only over millions upon millions of years. The orbits themselves stay put, stately, faithful, for ages beyond ages.
So chaos here isn't a countdown to catastrophe, it's a fog that only gathers unthinkably far downstream. While the clock ticks on serenely, it's the very distant reading that goes soft.
That's it exactly. Same beast, the doubling, but the beast's clock can run slow or fast. Fast for the toy, so it laughs in a second. Slow for the heavens, so it takes an age to blur.
Same animal, wildly different pace. And I'll bet that pace has a name because everything tonight has a name.
It does. One more for the small list. The rate at which the two nearby futures peel apart, the speed of the doubling, is what people call the Lyapunov rate. And the stretch of time it buys you before the peeling ruins everything is the Lyapunov time. Short for the toy, long for the planets. It sets, for any chaotic thing, a horizon, a distance into the future past which no one ever can see. Not for lack of trying, because seeing past it needs a start pinned finer than anything can be pinned.
A horizon. I like that and I hate it. It's honest, at least. It tells you exactly how far your sight reaches, and not one step further. But let me ask the thing that's been nagging me the whole time. If these things are so unpredictable, toy, weather, the far future of the planets, why don't they just fly off to nowhere? Unpredictable sounds like it should also mean unbounded, all over the place. Why doesn't the double pendulum fling itself across the room and keep going?
And here's the strange, lovely twist to leave you with. And I'll keep it light, because it's a doorway, not tonight's work. The double pendulum is unpredictable, and yet it is penned in. It never flies to nowhere. It can't. It hasn't the energy, and energy still holds, exactly as it did on the second night, banking the motion, forbidding the impossible. So it's trapped inside the set of moves it can afford, wrestling around forever inside its own energy budget. And here's the twist. Inside that pen, it doesn't come back and retrace itself.
Bounded, but never repeating.
Bounded and never repeating. Trapped and free at the very same time. There's a strange, hidden order in that. A shape the chaos lives on. But that shape is a room for another year. Tonight, only hold the paradox. Fenced in and never the same twice.
Fenced in and never the same twice. That's going to keep me up, and I can tell you're not going to open it, so I'll seal it with the others. Let me gather the reach before you move me on. Weather, a real edge, a week or two, and no computer moves it. 3 bodies, chaos hiding inside plain gravity, Poincaré's tangle. The solar system, chaotic, yes, but on a clock so slow it's no cause for panic. And a rate, Lyapunov's, that sets the horizon of sight for every one of them. And underneath all of it, the same doubling, running slow or fast.
All of it. Held. And now I think you're ready to go back to the very first night. Because tonight was always going to end there. Take us back. What did I sit you down in front of, the very first thing, before we'd built a single law?
A demon. You introduced me to a demon. Not a horns and fire demon, a mind. An imagined intelligence that knew, right now, exactly where every single thing in the universe is, and exactly how fast each one is moving. Every position, every push. And from that one frozen instant, you said, it could compute the whole of history, reel the entire future forward, rewind the entire past, in a single stroke. Laplace's, you called it, the Clockwork Universe, wound up and ticking, no wiggle room anywhere. I said it sounded insane. You said you believed a carefully worded version of it. And by the end of that night, so did I.
Laplace's demon. And here is what I need you to feel now, at the end, that you could not have felt then. All week you've been braced. I can see it on you, for me to walk in on the last night and tell you chaos kills the demon. That it was all a lovely dream and chaos wakes you up. That the clockwork was wrong.
I have been braced for exactly that. 12 episodes building this flawless machine, and I assumed the finale was the twist where you knock it down, where you say, sorry, the world's a mess after all, the demon was a fairy tale. Go on, knock it down.
I can't. Chaos doesn't lay a finger on the demon.
What? It has to. This whole night has been about how you can't read the future.
How you can't read it. Not that it isn't there. That's the turn, the whole turn of the series, and it isn't the one you were braced for. The demon is still right. Everything he claims is still true. The double pendulum's future is fixed. Every thrash of it, one future apiece, no dice anywhere. If the demon truly held the start to infinite fineness, he would have the whole future, chaos and all, exact to the last tick. The law never fails him, not once, not anywhere. Chaos leaves the clockwork standing, perfect, untouched.
Then, wait, if chaos doesn't break the clock and doesn't break the demon, then what does it break? Because something broke tonight. I felt it break.
Us. It breaks us, not the clock, the reader of the clock. The demon needs a perfect start, pinned to infinite fineness, every digit and no last digit. And no one, no hand, no ruler, no instrument that exists or could ever be built, holds a number to infinite fineness. So the Clockwork Universe is real. It is exactly as real, as flawless, as fixed as I promised you on the first night. And it keeps its own secrets, not because it's hiding anything, but because reading it far ahead needs a key no finite hand can ever hold.
So the clock is honest, and exact, and unreadable all at once.
The clock is honest, the clock is exact, and the clock is unreadable. And all three of those are true in the same tick.
So let me make sure I've got the full horror of this, because it's actually funny in a way that'll take me a minute to stop laughing at. The demon I met on the very first night, he's real. He genuinely exists, in principle. He is right about absolutely everything. The entire future is sitting there, written out in full, and he can read every word of it. And he, this all-knowing, universe-spanning, perfect intelligence, is stone blind past about next Tuesday for anything that thrashes.
Blind past next Tuesday for anything that thrashes. That's the demon, drawn honestly. All-knowing in principle, near-sighted in practice. And the nearsightedness isn't a flaw in him. It's a wall built into what it costs to read a chaotic clock. It is not a broken clock. Hold on to that, it's the whole thing. It's a perfect clock that no hand can ever wind forward on paper. The universe does its own arithmetic, flawlessly, out to the end of time, and simply declines to show its work to anyone who has to measure to find out.
You know what's strange? A week ago, "You'll never read it far ahead" would have sounded like the universe taunting me. Tonight, it doesn't. If the future were fixed and readable both, then every tomorrow would already be sitting there, fully computed, screened in advance, with nothing left in it to find out. Fixed and unreadable is somehow gentler than that. The future's real and settled, and it still has to be lived through before anyone gets to see it.
That's a kinder reading than the fact usually gets, and I've come to think it's the truer one. The clock isn't holding tomorrow back to spite you. It's that tomorrow is written in a hand that only tomorrow can read out loud. The same fact as the cold one, the horizon, the wall past which no one sees, only turned to the light and shown warm side up.
The universe does its own homework perfectly and refuses to show its work. Right, okay, and now I can finally hold the two words together, the two you handed me on night 1, and I welded into one by mistake. The demon has them both at once, and so does that ridiculous toy, a future fully fixed, and a reader who can never quite reach it. The clock is exactly as perfect as you promised on the first night, and exactly as unreadable as you warned in the very same breath, that same first night. It was never a contradiction. It was the actual shape of the thing, and I couldn't see the shape until now.
That's the shape. There it is. You found it yourself. And let me sit in it for one moment, because you've earned the whole of it. The most audacious claim in physics, that the present fixes all of time, is true. And the most humbling fact about ourselves, that we are finite and can never measure to the bottom, is also true. And chaos is the place where those two facts meet and shake hands instead of fighting. A perfect clock, a finite reader, and a horizon between them that no cleverness erases.
A perfect clock, a finite reader, and a horizon between them. Okay, can we, before you open the last door, or don't, or whatever you're about to do, can we go back down the whole staircase, all 12 nights? I want to see it once as a single climb, not 12 separate rooms. I feel like I only ever saw the step I was standing on.
Let's do that. The ritual one last time, only tonight it gathers the whole season. I'll lead us down, and you catch the ones I drop. The first night, 3 laws and the wound clock. A thing left alone glides on forever. A force is the one thing that bends the glide. And the state right now, everywhere, every how fast, grinds out the entire past and future.
Night 1, the laws and the clock, the foundation stone the whole thing stands on. Then night 2, you took me up into a landscape, energy, hills and valleys, and a number that flatly refuses to change no matter how the thing moves, quietly telling you where it's allowed to go and where it simply can't.
The landscape of energy. Then night 3.
Momentum, the calm center that coasts straight through the middle of any collision, any explosion, utterly untroubled, while everything around it bangs and scatters. The one thing the chaos of a crash can't touch.
The center that coasts. Then night 4.
The swing, nature's favorite motion, the one clean beat that everything tidy comes back to. The pure back and forth you find hiding at the bottom of every gentle valley. The tame one, the one I now know stays tame because it's polite.
The favorite motion. Then 5.
Many swings at once coupled together, and the discovery that the mess of them is secretly a handful of pure notes stacked up. 100 wobbling parts, and underneath, one song in a few clean voices.
The many springs and the one song. Sixter.
Orbits, the shape gravity actually draws, the closed curve that comes round and round and keeps its word, the readable heaven. The one I now know goes strange the instant you add a third dancer.
The shape of an orbit. Then night 7.
The spinning top. The stubborn one that you push one way and it stolidly leans the other and refuses, against every scrap of my intuition, to fall over. The gyroscope that keeps its own counsel.
The stubborn top. 8.
The forces that aren't there. The shove you feel with no hand behind it, in the braking bus, the turning car. The phantom that turns out to be the tell that you're the one moving, not the world. The coffee cup, finally cashed.
The forces that aren't there. Then night 9.
The path of least effort. The astonishing habit the world has of quietly spending as little as it can get away with, finding, out of all the paths it could take, the one that hoards its effort. The whole of motion, rewritten as thrift.
The path of least effort. And 10.
The things that never change, and the reason behind them, which floored me. That behind every symmetry, every way the world looks the same when you turn it or shift it or wait a while, there's a treasure locked up that can never be spent. Sameness and safekeeping, the same fact told twice.
The things that never change. Then night 11.
The room where the future flows. The whole of emotion shrunk to one point on a page of where and how moving, and time turned into a current, and the future something you watch by watching a single dot drift downstream.
The room where the future flows. And tonight.
Night 12. The edge of that room. The place where two dots dropped a whisker apart don't stay whisker close, but peel away and take the future with them. The clock's own edge.
The clock's own edge. There's the whole climb, laid end to end. Now stand at the top of it and look back down.
And they didn't merely sit politely in their own nights, did they? Half of them walked straight into tonight. Energy fenced the thrashing toy into its pen. The center that coasts is the reason a crash can be chaos in the flying pieces and dead calm in the whole. The room from last week is where I watch the two threads sprint apart.
They walk into each other constantly. That's the sign they were never 12 separate facts. They're one subject, seen through 12 different doors. Tug any one thread, and the others come up out of the cloth with it. That's what it means for a handful of pictures to hold up a whole science. They aren't a list you memorize. They're a single fabric, and what you did this season was learn, slowly, to see the weave.
And here's the thing that gets me. Standing up here looking down, it's a dozen pictures. That's all it ever was, 12 pictures. Not 12,000 equations, 12 pictures a person can actually hold in their head, and between them they run the whole clock. Planets and tides and tops and weather and the swing of a kid's foot and the fog at the far edge of the future. I kept waiting, all season, for the night it got complicated. And it never came. It only kept getting deeper.
It never gets complicated. It gets deeper. That's the difference. And it's the one worth carrying out the door. A dozen honest pictures, and they don't run out.
Not because the world is simple.
Not because the world is simple. You've spent tonight watching the world laugh at simple. Because a few good pictures reach almost the whole way down. Not that mechanics is easy, that it's this small at the root and this deep from there.
A few pictures, reaching almost the whole way down. Yeah, I'll take that one out with me. So, is that the door then? The last door? Are you going to do the thing where you crack it and stride off and leave me squinting into the dark for a whole year?
No door tonight. Or, no, that's not quite true either. The doors are all the ones we cracked and didn't walk through, and you felt every one of them. The dot with the smallest size, down at the very bottom, that will not be squeezed to a point, the quantum. The field that the light itself rides on, that we only ever waved at from a distance. Those are the next rooms, for another year, and other hands, and a different clock than this one. Tonight I've nothing left to hide behind a door. only the ritual.
One thing before the ritual, though. You keep saying the clock ticks on. Past this series, past the two of us. That's not a figure of speech to you, is it?
Not a figure of speech, no. The clock was ticking long before anyone sketched one of these pictures, and it'll go on long after the last person switches off tonight. Everything we did was learning to read a little way up its face, and tonight we found the last thing there is to find. How far up its face a finite creature is ever allowed to get. The clock was never waiting on us. We only ever wanted to know what it says.
The ritual. The last word at the door.
And you get it. This time, the last word of the whole of it. So, hand me the image. 12 nights. What is it you're carrying out?
The clock that cannot be read. That's the one. I walked in on the first night, dead sure the world was a mess, and you told me no, underneath it, a machine. And I fought that machine, and I lost, night after night, because it kept every promise it made. Then tonight you handed it back, and said that no creature will ever read past the next little stretch of it. I braced for that as a loss. It wasn't. It landed as the best surprise of the season, knowable enough to build a science on, deep enough it never runs dry. So the next time I watch anything move, a swing, a planet, a ridiculous thrashing toy that laughs at me, I'll picture the clock, perfect, honest, ticking, and declining with a kind of affection to show me its work. Wind the clock, and it tells you everything, and it tells you almost nothing, both in the very same tick. That's the one I'm keeping. Thank you for winding it with us, all 12 turns of it. Good night.